chirping birds. Normally, this would be a good time to reflect upon the beauty of nature, but it is 6 a.m. Covering my head with the pillow, I slam my face into the mattress, hoping that the impact will send me instantly back to sleep. However, unless it's an exceptionally hard impact, that just wakes you up more. Futile! I toss and turn, but sleep simply won't return to me. Life is pain. Alright, nature, you've won. See? I'm getting up now. That's rookie talk. That's cowardly, alright? I don't even fall asleep till after 6 a.m. You trying to tell me you can't get back to sleep? That's silly. The lack of sleep weighs my mind down, and there's only one remedy for this. A nice hearty breakfast. It would be nice to be the first person here, to be the first to dig into a piping hot pile of food to sit wherever I desire. It would have been nice. But my exceptionally early start has put me behind the most diligent students. I guess there are quite a few people that have early starts here for one reason or another. A group of students in sports clothing huddled around one table, eagerly discussing game plans, in between inhaling great gulps of food. Scattered around the halls are a number of bleary-eyed students, probably suffering from the same ailment as myself, noisy birds. Imagine not being able to sleep because of birds. And of course, there are the people that actually enjoy getting up this early, the ones with their bags stuffed with textbooks and completed homework. It's hard not to despise people like that, even more so when you're tired yourself. Picking out a familiar face from the thin crowd, I head towards the nearest table. Lily sits alone, delicately feeling her way around a small plate of egg with her fork. It's almost a shame to interrupt her and her clockwork movements. I wonder, is this how a blind person zones out? Simply moving in predetermined patterns learned over the years, just like how a sighted person would eat while reading a newspaper? Good morning, Lily. Didn't expect you to be here this early. Oh, Sal, you startled me. I didn't know you took breakfast this early. I don't. This is an exception to the rule. I greatly prefer to be late to school than early to breakfast. Lily gives a small sigh at my admitted tardiness as I begin eating my food. It doesn't take too long for her to lapse back into her previous mindless nibbling. Each short motion lacks energy. I suppose it's similar to letting your eyes wander while performing any ordinary chore. But after a few repetitions of the find food, eat food cycle, Lily puts down her fork and dabs her lips with a napkin, like a lady do. Sal, do you mind if I ask you a question? Damn, all I want is a little food and about 4 hours of sleep, and nobody says, can I ask you a question for a simple question? Sure. Do you think of Hanako as a friend? Well, it seems like a leading question. I guess so. Why do you ask? No real reason. I do have another question, though. Why is it that you think of her as a friend? This is well above my level. What is she expecting from me? I'm not really sure. I guess it's because she's a little different in the way she deals with people? Since I've known her, she hasn't really connected with anyone. She doesn't seem interested in other people, and I think people are a little scared off by her appearance. Really? I thought that kind of thing was, well, discouraged here. Discriminating and such. If I were to put it one way, she furrows her brow in thought, a move which makes me slightly anxious as to what she's plucking from her mind. I'd say you're a little naive. I was kind of thinking the same thing. Naive? I'd be insulted if not for the slightly cynical grin on her face. I see. While Yamaku has a stronger sense of community compared to other schools, it's far from being free of conflict. And it doesn't matter if everybody in the building has a different disability. There's always gonna be jerks. Rules cannot remove human nature, after all, only suppress it. That's something I've noticed, actually. Just little things like how certain people in cliques avoid each other in the hallways. It's no different than my old school, really. Even Lily and Shizune can be considered bitter rivals, even though they both seem like fairly accepting people. Well, at least the Misha-tinted Shizune does. Who knows what actually goes on with her fingers and behind her glasses. I guess you're right. But when I first came here, everything was a bit of a shock. I kept on making mistakes, or at least thinking I was making mistakes. Like when we first met and I said, I see to you. I don't know if that was considered rude or anything, so I tried to just put it in the back of my mind. Treating people any differently and that kind of thing. I didn't. I told myself that Hanako and you and everyone else was just normal, and I tried to ignore the obvious. I talked to Hanako as if she were any other person, and so we became friends. At least that's how I think it happened. But you know, I feel guilty just from saying something like that out loud, as if it took extra effort to think of Hanako or you or anyone here as normal people. I don't think that's right. Sal, I think you are naive, but I also think that you are a good person. It is perhaps one of your better traits, my naivete or my general desire to be a good person. I suppose I can take that as a compliment. Tell me, are you free tonight? If you don't count homework, then I'm as free as the breeze. In that case, would you care to join myself and Hanako for tea? I don't really have that much money at the moment, so going out isn't really... Oh, I didn't mean going out. Just here, this evening. You can access the classrooms in the evening here? No, that's not what I meant. Hanako and I often use my room for tea parties together. Please feel free to drop by after dusk. Sure, I see no problem with that. What's your room number? 225. Room 25 on the second floor. Okay, sure. Well then, I'd best be off. I have class representative duties to attend to, after all. Fancy lady! Away! Yeah, catch you later. Hang on, was I just invited to a girl's room after hours? Is that even allowed? There's a curfew here, but I've never heard any rules about visitors in the dorm rooms. Even still, this is enough to get my sleep-deprived brain jump-started. Add that to a lukewarm breakfast, and you have one hell of a pick-me-up. I grudgingly go to class, still a little excited at the prospect of breaking the rules. As you do. I feel like a little kid planning to sneak out of his window at night. Never did that before, mostly because I've never not been on ground level. Well, maybe that's going a little too far. But when you compare an invitation to a party to 6 or so hours of lectures, I know which one wins. Misha and Shizun do a little to relieve my boredom either. For once, they seem determined to actually complete Muto's assignments. Discourse done! Nevertheless, the day eventually winds to a close. I hurry back to my room to wash up and comb my hair. Thankfully, I don't run into Kenji, so today is already going off pretty fantastically. Before long, I am leaving the boys' dorms. I nervously rap on the door marked 225, checking my watch once again. Is that you, Hisao? The door is open. You can come in. Lily's voice lits through the door and soothes my nerves. It's the first time I've been invited to a girl's room after dark. I mean, I've been to things like that. It ain't that mind racy. I mean, come on, dude. Even though I know there is no ulterior motives behind this invitation, it doesn't stop my mind running wild with possibilities. One guy, 2 girls, in a dorm room, with a tea set. Ain't nothing raunchier in the world than a tea set. Ain't no party like your Nana's tea party. When I put it like that, it sounds a little dodgy. Giving a small sigh to steady myself, I gingerly put my hand on the handle and open the door, craning my head to see inside. How fancy is it? Not that fancy, though they do be casual. Oh dang, that actually looks like pajama casual. The door opens completely and I catch my first glimpse of Lily's room. Her furniture looks almost antique, but the bare walls and flat surfaces are barely decorated at all. In the center of the room sits a low table where I see a small tea set at rest. It seems that everything in this room has its place, possibly excepting the several piles of books stacked up against the wall. My sense of vision isn't the only one to be stimulated. The faint smell of something can be picked up in the air. Nail polish, perfume, makeup. It's hard to describe it any other way than girly. I mean, by all definitions, a man could have all of those exact same things in their room too, but I get the general broad strokes you're trying to roll with. My eyes finish their quick sweep of the room before returning their position onto the girls. Lily sits next to the small table wearing very dark blue pajamas. Really? I would have called them black. Dark blue pajamas with shorts that show off plenty of her alluring pale legs. Opposite her, Hanako sits adorned in a conservative light pink gown. Her hands are firmly fixed between her legs, her shoulders forward, and her head down as if trying to hide herself in it. It'd be easy for her to do. It looks about 2 sizes too big for her. Like a turtle! That's what I did in high school sometimes. I just kind of sat outside a classroom waiting for the bell to ring, and I hid inside my sweatshirt. Waves of flannel flow from her frame, making her look like a child playing dress-up in her parents' clothes. She looks up to confirm my identity, and the beginnings of a thin smile creep across her face, before vanishing so fast that I can't be sure that they were even there. There's no point in you standing in the doorway, Hisao. I take a step into the room, closing the door behind me, as I enjoy the fact that these characters have new sprites. My, I'm afraid this really is a small room for the 3 of us. Would you like to take a seat? I slowly walk to the table and sit down, trying my hardest not to disturb anything along the way. I also can't help but steal a quick glance into Lily's top as I sit, excuse me? To be robbed of a sight would be a most terrible fate. Damn, dude. Okay. Well now, how about some tea, Hanako? Could you please pour? Sure. Hisao would you like? I would love some tea. Do you need a hand? No, I'm fine. Thank you. Lily finds it difficult to resist a smile at her companion's nervousness. Something I can't really blame her for. Been a tiring day? Yeah. I relax at my place, opposite of the cabinet. To my left is the blue-clad Lily, and to my right sits the pink Hanako. The tea set on the table looks cute as well as practical, painted red with a floral motif. It looks odd when contrasted with Lily's plain but generally sophisticated-looking furniture, which leads me to think that Hanako might have picked it out. There's a slight ting when Hanako accidentally clips the teapot on a cup as she's pouring. Ting! She breathes in sharply. She must be really nervous, as if it's not the kind of thing anyone would worry about. Hanako quivers at her mistake. It's okay, Hanako. There's no need to be nervous. Hanako seems to have found some confidence in Lily's reassuringly soft-spoken words and deftly pours the next cups like some kind of tea-serving savant. Here you are, Hisao. Lily. Hanako carefully places the cup and saucer in front of Lily and myself. Get used to service like this. Thank you, Hanako. Yeah, thanks. You're welcome. Lily searches for her cup, and upon finding it, sips delicately. I do the same. This tea tastes somewhat better than the tea we usually have at school. This is nice. So different from any tea I had before. Looks like you picked the right one, Hanako. You've done well, even if it was a bold move. Hanako's smile returns, redoubled. Even with her belighted face. Belighted? I'm not sure. Her shy smile couldn't be called anything but cute. I'm glad you like it. Hanako finally begins to relax, sips from her cup. I think back to my chat with Misha the other day. Is Hanako's behavior something to be concerned about, or is she just shy? And then there was Lily earlier this morning. The concern from both of them seemed to be genuine, and they know the situation better than I. But really, how could I possibly help? I'm no plastic surgeon, so I can't really help her appearance. Wow. Nor am I a psychologist who can make her more sociable. That is a less weird thing to say. I mean, I guess everybody thinks things. So what the hell do Lily and Misha want me to do? It's frustrating. Hanako and I are quickly becoming friends on our own accord, and because of that, it's like everyone wants me to solve all her problems. And I have no idea how to do that. Nor do I even know if it's really my place to even try to do that. I mean, swoop in, just inject yourself into someone's life and try to solve all their problems? That seems a little, I don't know, a bit disrespectful, honestly. I don't imagine she's that helpless. Anyway, no one can cure my heart, nor Lily's eyes, nor anyone who is here in this school, unless some serious medical advancements go down. I did hear of this one guy who I think he got like part of a shark's tooth, or maybe it was just part of his own tooth. I don't know if it was a shark's tooth or not. I don't know where that came from. But he got it like injected or surgically implanted into his eye, and he went from like completely and totally 100% blind to only like, I want to say like 85% blind. He could like at least make vague shapes or colors out at that point. So, I mean, you never know what might be able to be solved at some point in the future. However, I see no harm in becoming butter friends. We're butter friends. We enjoy toast. With Hanako, now that she's warming up to me, I kind of enjoy hanging out with her. So, Hisao, are you enjoying yourself? Lily's words break me out of my reverie, my soliloquy, my monologuing, and I take a second to reconsider where I am. I'm in a room with two girls in their bedclothes. This is something to be enjoyed. Yeah, it's relaxing. Almost like I'm not in school anymore. Do you do this often? Quite often, but not as often as we take tea in the school building. Considering they do that nearly every day, that's not a big surprise. As I move to take another sip from my teacup, I find it sadly empty. That was delicious. Thank you, Hanako. Lily. You're welcome. Yes, you're most welcome, Hisao. It's nice to have a third person here. Well, anytime you need someone to fill that position, I'm always available. Always. Oh, one must be sure to get one's point across in these circumstances. Lily lets loose a yawn, which she unsuccessfully hides with her hand. Pardon me. I think I'm a little tired. I think we're all a little tired. My. How astute we are tonight, Hanako. We really should head to bed. We all have class tomorrow. Yeah, I should go. Thank you for your presence, Hisao. Thanks. You'll come again? Not even a whole army could stop me. I'm impressed by your determination, Hisao. Either way, you're right. We'd better get going. I stand up and make for the door. Hanako gingerly stands up behind me. I stop and face her. You coming with me? Hanako instantly blossoms into full blush. No, this room isn't. It's okay. I was only joking. Oh, okay. Good night. Good night, Hanako. Good night, Hisao. Night all! And with that, our tea party finishes. 'Twas a delightful time. I'm still not sure what it is that Lily wants me to do for Hanako, but I don't want to let her down. I wait until the door closed behind us before turning to Hanako. Hey, Hanako, you don't have to be nervous around me or anything. I mean, we're friends, right? Right. We're friends. If you ever want to hang out or anything, just let me know. We still need to have that chess rematch, remember? Sure. But I don't think you'll win. Wouldn't be any fun if it was easy. Hanako seems to give a muted laugh, but she could have just as easily been exhaling. It's hard to tell sometimes. Good night, Hisao. With that, Hanako quickly retreats into her room, located next to Lily's. I start to walk back to my dorm, but the simple act of walking seems to drain me of my energy. I barely make it to my room before I'm hit by a wave of exhaustion. Kick off my shoes, fall into bed, and fall asleep by the time my head hits the pillow. Well, that sounds incredibly nice. I wish I could do that. How dare your superior sleeping skills be rearing their nasty heads all up in this place. Disgusting! I pull my door closed, ready for another day of classes. Unfortunately, I'm besieged by a Kenji. Sleep well? Kenji's sudden arrival makes me jump, and I narrowly avoid butting heads with him. I think he has poor eyesight, but he knows who I am now. Does he still have to stand this close? Oh, yeah, like a baby. Damn, why do people say that? Have you ever heard a baby sleep? Which is to say, they barely do at all. They scream all night, every night. Babies don't sleep well ever. Well, there goes my restful state. Had to remember to never use figure of speech with Kenji. Alright, get your point, it was a figure of speech. Yeah, sure, whatever. Where were you last night? I had a favor to ask, but you weren't around. For a split second, I considered telling Kenji the truth, that I was spending time with Hanako and Lily. Thankfully, that split second passes as soon as it came. I was just out, checking out the local area and stuff. You know, recon. Good man, good. Knew you were the type to plan ahead. Anyway, what's this favor you wanted? I was gonna get some takeout, but I needed change. Wait, what? I gave you money last week and you still haven't paid me back. And I was starting to think you were cool. Kenji fishes around in his pocket and produces his wallet. As he counts out the 400 yen he owes me, I clearly see at least two 10,000 yen notes. What the hell? Why are you borrowing money off me when you got that much cash? Kenji hisses a little, realizing that he's been had. Get off my case, man. It's bad luck to break a big note for anything less than half its value. It's the tycoon's rule. Last night's dinner is gonna cost me 7 years of bad luck. 7 years! Don't you think that's enough cause to help someone out? I get a shorter sentence if I just stole the stuff. My common sense screams at me to say something to him, but thankfully I restrain myself. Arguing a point like this with Kenji will just lead to further and more complicated discussions, and I have no interest in any of that. Yeah, I guess you're right. Maybe you should plan these things a little better. Yeah, man, I know, but I just got so much stuff to do. It's hard, and you're never around anymore, so I'm on my own. We're supposed to be brothers in brotherhood, remember? I think I've spoken to you like maybe 5 times. Yeah, I get you. Global conspiracy and such. I'll keep my ear to the ground. Kenji draws close enough for me to get a clear whiff of his garlic-tainted breath. Oof. You'd better, man. You're already spending less time here. That's the first thing they do. They'll try to split us up, divide and conquer. Sun Tzu said that, and I think he'd know a little bit more about feminist conspiracies than you do, pal. Somehow I doubt this. Roger that. Now I've got to get going. I've got classes. You coming? Nah, I'm tired. I stayed up all night just to make sure nothing was going to happen after splitting that note. As rational as ever, I see. Whatever. Night. Kenji scurries back into his room, and I hear throwing his locks as I walk down the hallway. He'd just be like that. That is why some people can't roll their tongue, or why their second toe is longer than their big toe. Muto beams a half-moon smile at us, obviously proud of his explanation of recessive genes. However, no matter how impressed he is with the science that defines who we are, the classroom seems to be reduced to a stupor. Why is it that a bad explanation can make the most interesting thing seem worthless? I can see Muto deflate as he realizes that nothing he said in the past half hour has sunk in. Whispered conversations start to break the silence, and like an avalanche, the noise level in the class starts to rise. Defeated, Muto identifies some questions from the textbooks and sets to clearing off the blackboard. Almost as if expected, Hanako packs up her things and leaves as soon as people start talking and laughing among themselves. The initial shock of seeing someone play so blatantly truant has started to fade, but it doesn't stop me from wondering. Is she leaving because she doesn't want people to speak to her? Or is it just the thought of people around her shattering her peace? Before I can think about the topic any further, the lunch bell rings. Or she was simply taking the opportunity to leave early. The usual clamor of students exchanging books for lunch reverberates around the room, and while Misha is distracted, I grab my lunch and head out the door. I have not been assaulted by Damisha. Lily already sits in the tea room, sitting on her lunch alone. So, Hanako's not here then? Oh, Sal, how are you? I haven't met Hanako since this morning, I'm afraid. That's right, Hanako and Lily live next to each other. Somehow I think their morning conversations are slightly more grounded than Kenji's rumblings. That's strange, she left class early, so I figured that she'd come here. So, she's still leaving class early. Huh? Yeah, I've seen her do it a few times. Lily drops her head a little, and her tone of voice is notably depressed. It's very reminiscent of someone who is used to hearing bad news. I was so sure that she'd stop doing that once you two became friends. Everyone has their own pace, I suppose. I was wondering about just that today. Why exactly does she leave? I'm not entirely sure myself. I personally think it's because she doesn't want to be put in a situation where she has to answer someone. I have a flashback of my first meeting with her, when I thought she looked like a cornered animal. Maybe I wasn't far from the truth. But she seems fine talking to you, and with me, a bit. It's a little more complex than that. I imagine the first thing most people ask her about is her scars and what happened. She rarely talks about it with me, but I can tell that she doesn't like to remember whatever happened back then. That's more than fair. Leaving class and running away from discussions is her preemptive strike, if you will. Huh. So then how does that explain her talking to me? You said it yourself yesterday at breakfast. You tried to ignore her scars. When she saw that you weren't going to ask her about that, she opened herself up to you. Huh. I guess you're right. Maybe. I don't know. You know her better than I, so I'll take your word for it. I wouldn't worry about that. I'm sure you'll come to know her as well as I do soon enough. I welcome the prospect of her having a new friend, and the two of you having such similar interests. Well, I hardly count reading as a team sport. It is good to have company, though. That's my point. Hanako is still an average person at best. She also wants company at times like that. Huh, I see. I think. To be honest, both of you still confuse me a little. That's only natural, Hisao. We've only known each other for a little while. It's unreasonable to expect you to understand us, just as we can't understand you. What's there not to understand? I'm pretty simple. But that is half the fun of becoming friends, right? Yes it is. Although I suppose there is the matter of being opposite genders. Men and women do seem to confuse each other quite often. I guess I don't have nearly enough experience to be able to be, speaking authoritatively with that sort of thing. But I never really noticed that big of a difference, really. If you just treat people like people, it all kind of comes off the same. She says this with a light giggle, finding amusement at the odd little details of life. I hope you don't mind, but I'm going to start eating. Go ahead. I think I'll eat something too. Got some books I want to drop back at the library before classes start, so I'd better get a move on. You'll probably find Hanako there as well. If you do see her, can you tell her to stop by my room later tonight? I'd like to talk to her. You're not coming? Unfortunately, I have class representatives meetings later, so I'll be gone as soon as I finish my lunch. Okay then. If I don't see her in the library, then I'll tell her in class. I'm sure she'll be back after lunch. We fall silent as we start to eat, and I take a second to reflect on our conversation. I've always thought that Hanako's shyness was simply due to her being self-conscious of her scars. But that is a pretty superficial way of looking at her. Just when I thought I was able to see through the fog of Lily and Hanako, I realized that I'm more lost than when I started. Lily quickly finishes her lunch, acutely aware of her meeting. I don't blame her. Shizune is most likely going to be there, and I doubt she wants to give her the satisfaction of another argument. I must be off. Same time tomorrow? Same time, same channel. That's a Batman thing. No, I guess that was the same bat time, same bat channel. A lot of shows did that back in the day. Whatever. Point is, I get the reference. I better head off too. I don't want to risk being late. Lily smiles gently, picks up her cane, and walks out into the hall. I turn my back on Lily as we head in opposite directions, and that's when she struck. For some reason, I find myself hoping she doesn't get into another fight with Shizune. I know that they will, but I can hope that they don't. As much as I like Lily, Shizune, and Misha have... As much as I like Lily, Shizune and Misha have been pretty instrumental in helping me adjust, and even if half of our conversation are thinly veiled recruitment attempts. Then again, I barely know either of them. Maybe they were previously leaders of some kind of secret society, but their love for each other drove them apart. I need to stop reading cheap fiction. It's rotting my brain. Either that or I've gone to move away from Kenji and his bad influence. It's sad that I can't tell the two apart anymore. I slide my books down the return chute, and they crash into the cart with a pleasant thud. Dear Lord! Yuko, however, doesn't seem as impressed as I. Hisao, you scared me! Sorry, I thought you'd be used to that by now. Or is the literacy level here so low that nobody borrows any books? Huh? No, I think everybody here can read fine. Yeah, never mind. There are some battles that you can never win. Trying to explain jokes is one of them. My dad taught me that the hard way. Say, Yuko, have you seen Hanako about? She left class early, but she wasn't in her usual hiding place. I think I saw her sneak in before lunch. Oh, but I'm not supposed to tell anyone that. I just told you that I saw her leave. No need to stress out. Oh, of course. She's probably in the back. Thanks. Get any new books in recently? No, sorry. I'll let you know when we do, though. Okay. If there's one thing I know about librarians, part-time or otherwise, it's that they appreciate people who take a genuine interest in their work. Generally, you don't end up working at a library. You tend to usually want to, more often than not. I walked the now familiar path to Hanako's reading nook, pitched out a few titles along the way. Sometimes I find it hard to discover a book that will interest me along the shelves. An author's name and a two-word title doesn't mean much in a sea of similar words. For that reason, I sometimes reread books that I read in the past like a nerd. Better to bet on the favorite than a new runner. Boy. An unfamiliar title from a familiar author peeks out amongst the spines of its neighbors, so I remove it from the shelf. At least I'm not going over old material. Suddenly, I notice a Hanako. As expected, Hanako sits on her beanbag, buried deep in a copy of Dance, Dance, Dance. Interesting title for a book, I guess. Hi, Hanako. How's it going? I fight back the urge to ask why she left her class early. If Lily's suspicions were right, then asking her about that could have the opposite effect. Best to leave it for the time being. Sometimes the best way to get an answer from someone is to never ask the question. Hello, Hisao. I'm fine. Something seems off, and after a couple of seconds I realize what it is. Hanako's smiling. She looks as if she's pleased to see me. It's a nice change from the usual instinctively frightened reaction. And sometimes I hope I can see more of, something I hope I can see more of as we get to know each other better. Good to hear. How's that book? I've heard it's a trip. It's good, I think. I've only just started it, so I don't really know. Fair enough. Let me know how it goes. I may borrow it once you're done. Sure. There's a good 15 minutes left in lunch. Not enough to really get into a book, but too much to stand around doing nothing. And Hanako already returned to her reading, so I doubt I'll get much conversation from her. Oh well, better make myself comfortable. I slouch into a beanbag and crack open my book. The familiar style of the offer leaps out at me from the very first line. As the sentences turn into paragraphs, I start to relax a little. But no matter how hard I try, I can't seem to get myself into the atmosphere of the book. This is partly due to the lack of time, but the more distracting factor is Hanako. Every 10 or so seconds, she peers over the top of her book, but when her eyes meet, she quickly ducks behind the covers. I guess she did want to talk about something after all. We may never know! What's up? Look like a prairie dog on lookout. There's nothing. I told you before, nothing means something when you say it like that. Hanako squirms a little in her beanbag, hoping that by changing her position, she'll find the word she's looking for. I was in an accident. Eh? Accident? Just now? Are you alright? Hanako shakes her head, her hair flowing around her shoulders in wisps of amethyst on a background of pale and dark flesh. No. When I was younger. Realization crashes into me like a semi. When I was... It's alright, Hanako. You don't have to tell me anything if you don't want to. Again, she shakes her head. No, I have to tell you. When I was young, I was in a fire. My house burned down and I nearly didn't make it. After that, I was alone. Hanako's eyes glisten in the dim light of the library and I reach out to grasp her hand. It's okay, Hanako. You don't have to keep going. But I have to. Why? What brought this on? Last night, Lily told me about your heart, and I didn't think it was fair. Fair? That I knew about you, but she didn't know about me. I squeeze Hanako's hand a little. Don't be silly. But yes, I have a heart condition. I lean a little closer to Hanako. What I didn't tell Lily is that I had my first attack when a girl confessed to me. I smile a little to break the tension. Really? Really? I hadn't heard from her for a while, though, so I guess it's all over. I know it's all over. There's no way to interpret what happened the last time I saw her. In some ways, not having heard from her again has helped me move on from that period of my life. So now we both know a little more about each other. But you don't have to talk about things if you don't want to. In fact, I feel a little bad even thinking about the whole incident. I can almost smell the hospital's disinfectant burning the back of my sinuses again. I imagine Hanako is going through the same thing now. When I was in the hospital, I went to the burn ward once, and only once. I was bored, so I went for a walk through all the wards. I went through oncology, and I thought I could take it, but when I got to the burn ward, I turned around and went back to my bed. To think that Hanako would have spent months at a place like that, smelling nothing but corrupted skin, strong disinfected and sterilized air. The really bad cases were kept in isolated pods that no foreign objects could enter. That would have meant no reading. I would have gone insane if I didn't have my books in the hospital. And she said she was alone. Did her parents die? I'll have to ask Lily about it. I can imagine myself saying something dumb unintentionally. Thank you, Hisao. That was a really pretty song, by the way. I haven't told many people about this. To be honest, I haven't told many people about my circumstances either. Then I won't tell anyone either. Deal. I changed my grip on Hanako's hand into a handshake as the warning bells chimed through the window. Well then, better head back to class, eh? Sure. I feel like we've made some pretty good progress right there. That's a chess maneuver! I know some things about the chess. It's true. Not a lot, but enough. Oh, hello. The tint of the room slowly changes from the shine of the afternoon to the orange of dusk. A clock lazily ticks away the seconds, counting in the background on the verge of hearing. But no matter how long I wait, the outcome cannot be changed. The diminutive playing piece makes a small click against the board. Like a wound spring. Or a wound spring makes more sense, yes. Hanako makes her move only moments after mine. It's embarrassing. In comparison to my 5-minute move, she seems to know exactly what she wants to do. Mate. Again, why does that make this? 3-2? Stalemates don't count. Damn, you're getting better at this every day. That, or she's been holding back. Never had thought it when I first met her, but she really has a knack for this game. Chess seems to have become a popular pastime for the two of us, hiding away in the tea room, playing a game or two after classes. From here, the students outside can just barely be heard milling about. The everyday noises from below remind me a little of my life before Yamaku, though I'm by now well aware that it's a life I'll never get back to. Fancy another game? I have to finish my homework. Well, I'll see you tomorrow then. But what about this? Hanako points to the tea set surrounding the mostly empty chessboard. Don't worry about that, I've got it. Oh, okay. See you. Later. Hanako departs as I start cleaning up the area. The occasional whistles and cheers from the sporting clubs outside become less frequent, eventually approaching silence. As part of me still wants to be in some kind of team, or a part of me, since I played soccer and other sports before my accident. I guess it's only normal to feel nostalgic about what I can't do anymore. But I have other reasons than that for coming here so often, and I don't feel so bad about losing that part of myself because of them. Lily is a good friend by now, but it's the small exchanges I have with Hanako that feel especially dear. The small victories I feel every day as I see more of what she's like under her self-imposed shell. That's why I come here most of all. As I'm putting away cups and saucers, I hear talking about outside the door. Pausing for a moment to listen, I can make out that it's Hanako and Lily and decide to go outside to investigate. Are you quite sure? I'm sure. Hisao. Hanako turns to me with a look of mild surprise as she notices my approach. Lily must have caught her just as she was about to leave. Oh my, Hisao is here as well. Afternoon, Lily. What's up? I was hoping, now that I finished my class representative duties for the day, that I might have the two of you accompany me for tea at the Shanghai. It'd be nice to enjoy ourselves outside of the school for a change. I'd be up for it. I think Hanako had work to do, though. It's not all that much. Wonderful. It seems that we're decided then. Spending time with your pals. I cast my eyes across the cafe as the three of us step in. As usual, there are only a handful of people around at most, and the noise level is quiet as a quiet background hum. The hold Lily has on Hanako's arm remains just as it's been for the entire slow walk down the hill to the local town. Though it's hard to say for which reason, for Lily's guidance or for Hanako's reassurance. Could be a little bit of both. For a moment, Lily removes her arm from Hanako's to retract her cane as Yuko quickly skitters over to where we stand, but soon replaces it right back where it had been. Welcome to the Shanghai. May I take your order? Ba-bow. She gives a deep bow, her well-delivered and professional introduction putting her in a good mood. It's a nice change from the norm for Yuko. Just tea, please. Hanako, Hisao. I'll have a slice of pie and a coffee. Just tea, please. Coming right up. Please take any seat you wish, and I'll be back shortly. Hey, she's getting it right. Good for her. Yuko gives a smile and a nod before shuffling to the counter, and we make our way to some empty seats by the window in quick measure. Sit. We slip into our seats. The girls on one side with Lily's cane propped up beside them, and I on the other. I realize that Hanako's not doing something that she so often does. Rather than keeping her eyes pinned to the ground and hiding behind her blind escort, busily trying to convince herself that the world around them doesn't exist, she's merely keeping her eyes low and helping Lily around. Isa nice. You okay, Lily? You look tired. She lowers her head a little, looking somewhat embarrassed that she let it show. Class representative work can be very tiring, considering that it often means dealing with the student council. Very tiring indeed. How do the other representatives go? Better than I, but not by much. Shizune is a harsh taskmaster no matter whom she deals with. Doesn't sound like you particularly relish the job. Why do you do it in the first place if it's that bad? Being a class representative is enjoyable, and I can deal with the responsibility well enough. It's just that the people involved are sometimes... She trails off, cutting her words at a rather opportune spot. It's hard to imagine Lily cursing, but I imagine that if anyone could make her do so, it would be Shizune. Hanako looks to be withering a bit in the light of such conflict, but before I can steer the topic away a little, she stands up. Ooh, Hanako? I'll be back in a bit. With that, she leaves for the restrooms. I suppose that's one way to deal with the situation, if that was indeed her motivation. Lily, however, looks a little worried. Don't worry about it. I don't think it was you. But I think she's been getting stronger recently. You've seen it yourself, right? That went a bit awry. Fortunately, Lily doesn't look offended, and by now I really shouldn't be quite so scared of stepping on the landmine around her. Possibly. Sometimes I find it hard to tell, though. Silence regains for a moment before 2 teacups, a pie, and a mug of steaming coffee appear in front of us. The stanky bean water has arrived. I notice that Yuko takes special care to place the teacup against the tip of Lily's fingers, letting her know where it is. Here you go. Thanks, Yuko. Thank you. With a quick and silent bow, the bespectacled waitress takes her leave. Ah, that's right. I was meaning to ask you something. Now would be the right time to do so. I'm all ears. Hanako's birthday is coming up, and I was hoping that you might accompany me for present shopping in the city this weekend. Hanako's birthday is soon? So it would be nice nice chance to cheer her up a bit. Like Yuko, she always seems to be teetering on the edge of either panic or depression, and I never see her enjoy herself outside of our chess games. All that aside, learning the layout of the city better with a friend keeping me company sounds like a good way to spend a weekend. Sure, I'd be happy to. Got any plans for what to do for her birthday? A party or anything? Hanako being Hanako, perhaps a low-key affair would be... Lily suddenly cuts herself short, leaving me to wonder why she brings her teacup to her lips and begin to sip. After a few seconds, I notice Hanako walking up to us over her shoulder. Lily's hearing must be very good indeed if it was the sound of the restroom door opening that tipped her off. Hanako takes her seat once again and wastes no time in drinking her tea. Soon, the 3 of us are quietly eating and drinking as the sun sets. It's a nice way to spend the remainder of the day's light, and it makes me appreciate the quiet and serene surroundings of Yamaku. I think I'm really beginning to like life here, as isolated as it may be. Sometimes it's all you need. That's all that there is. I finish off the last of my coffee and rest the mug on the table while the girls talk between themselves. The coffee here is a little bitter for my taste, but still quite good. Better than what I could make for myself in any case. It's all coffee! The girls' discussion is mainly focused on their respective reading preferences, which does give me a little curiosity about a related topic. Hey Hanako, I was just wondering, aside from chess and reading, do you have any hobbies or things you like doing? She's completely stopped in her tracks, looking quite surprised that anyone would be interested in asking such a question about her. It takes her a little time to formulate a response. I guess I like singing a little. I'm okay with computers as well, but I don't use them all that much. Singing's not exactly something I expected to hear. It's hard to imagine her singing voice, given how soft-spoken she is. It's probably very wispy. Lily, on the other hand, simply nods. She must already know this since she's been friends with Hanako for 1 year or so by now. What about me? She hesitates before quickly flicking her head up and down. It's only logical that she'd want me to talk about my hobbies after she told me hers. There's chess, obviously, but also... There was soccer as well, though I can't really do that anymore. Reading, which I picked up in the hospital. This is surprisingly hard. Lily and Hanako look a little put off by the direction this is taking. And the more I think about it, the more I am too. It sounds as if you've picked up quite a few things since your accident. Lily's candor is coated with probably the most positive spin one could put on what I said. Hanako, however, is silent. If a situation becomes difficult, her reaction always seems to be withdrawing into silence in order to prevent things getting worse. That or physically retreating, whatever comes first. Egads! A soft ringing gives us pause. As Lily reaches into her pocket, it becomes obvious that the sound's coming from her phone. Sorry. It's okay. Lily gives a quick nod before shuffling out of her seat and taking the call a little distance away to avoid disturbing the both of us. Must be nice to be so popular. Hanako smiles, but doesn't take up the hook for further discussion. I guess I fall asleep. I end up sitting back and closing my eyes, relaxing as best I can. It's nice and peaceful here. What would it be like to have grown up somewhere like this rather than in the city? You come from the city? Looks like I found something she wants to talk about. Hello? Yeah, you could say I was a city kid through and through. sounds like a lot changed. It did. I'm still not quite sure what to make of all of it, though. It's a bit of a culture shock in more ways than one. You must have gone through something like this when you first arrived at Yamaku, right? I imagine most new students would. Not really. Hanako gazes a little to the side, looking unwilling to go on. I tilt my head inquisitively, but a couple of seconds pass with no further answer. But can't we deal with that on Monday? The fallout is hardly settled from the last. I understand. I'll try to talk her down. You know what she's like when she gets locked onto an idea. Yes, thank you. I'll talk to you later then. Goodbye. Lily's conversation ends with a snap of her phone closing. You know this game was made a while ago when everyone's using, clamshell phones. She returns to our table but doesn't take her seat. Need to go? Unfortunately, class representative work calls once again. I can come with you. It's all right, Hanako. I'll just be going straight to the student council. There's no need to spoil a fine evening on my account. Besides, if you were to accompany me on my way back to the school, who would keep our poor Hisawa company? Okay. I can join you for tea later again tonight, if you'd like. I may as well need it. We agree on that plan, and Lily says her farewells to the both of us, taking her cane after Hanako passes it to her. Despite my offer to pay for Lily's share, she insists on giving us her portion of the bill and gives her regards to Yuko as she takes her leave. And then, we're alone. It may be all well and good to leave Hanako and me alone to have some time together, but all it typically means is the two of us sitting near each other in silence for a while. I wonder what I must look like to Hanako. I never thought of myself as a scary person, but to have someone my own age acting this way around me makes me intensely self-aware, as if it's my fault that she's so troubled. She might get more used to people if she were to stop being so cloistered in Yamaku. But then again, when even people much older than her react so strongly after a single glance at her face, she may well feel the same way I do now. It's a real catch-22. If she stays in Yamaku, she wouldn't get used to socializing. But if she leaves, any effort she might try would get thrown back at her by the people who couldn't deal with her scarring. Want to order something else to keep us going? You haven't had much of a dinner, after all. Hanako brightens and nods vigorously, glad that I brought up the topic for her. I catch Yuko's gaze, and she dutifully comes over to take our orders. Would you like something else? I'll just have a sandwich special and a hot chocolate. Bit late for coffee by now. Hanako? I'll have the same. With a nod and a bow, Yuko turns on the ball of her foot and returns back to the counter, where she busies herself fishing out bread and condiments and working the machines to make our drinks. Not a word is said between us until Yuko comes back. She smiles and gives us our food and drinks, before moving to a customer who's called for her attention. I give up on the prospect of having much of a conversation with my companion and decide to enjoy the small meal, as it may be. It tastes nice, as does most of the food here. After having a few mouthfuls, I notice something's missing, namely the sound of Hanako eating. Looking back to her, I see Hanako fidgeting a little behind her untouched sandwich. Not hungry? She shakes her head from side to side. Even as she does, the patch of her hair she keeps over the right side of her face still does its job in hiding it almost entirely. It's not that. I was all ready to have your share, too. You look troubled. Is something wrong? I'm startled by her thinking that I'm the one who looks troubled. But on second thought, she's probably right. My face may have given away my emotions without me noticing, and she's hardly a dim person. Quite the opposite. If anything, she's redonkulously good at it. We're friends, right? Friends. From the tone of her voice and shrinking posture, it looks as though I've hit yet another landmine. This is another reason why interacting with her is difficult. The self-imposed psychological barrier she puts up between herself and others, including me, and most likely even Lily. It's a shame that... I think that we are. I'm a little taken off guard by Hanako's straightforward answer. All the more so since I was about to give up on getting any reply at all. I see. Am I wrong? Sorry, no, it's just... Hearing confirmation of that from you is reassuring. To pick up on what you said earlier, since coming to Yamaku, I've been a little bit uneasy about how I should relate with others. I find myself chuckling a little. It's surprising how much of a relief that was. I can feel my face smiling as I pick up my cup of hot chocolate and bring it to my lips. Ah, that's hot! That's why. That's why I haven't eaten yet. I was waiting for my drink to cool down first. I guess I'll wait then. The both of us share a little chuckle. The situation isn't really that funny, but for some reason, feels like laughing is the most natural thing to do right now. I guess we were a bit wound up about each other. I was so busy thinking Hanako was the one with something wrong, it took her to remind me that I was uneasy as well. Be that as it may, still feels a little nice. A little nice to have someone thinking about me like that, in her own way. Very, very cute. Following a long, quiet trudge up the hill and into the school grounds, the two of us find ourselves between the two dormitories. Regular night patrols pass between the male and female dormitory buildings, both for security and to quickly raise the alarm for any medical issues that may arise. The guard currently on duty notices us and gives a quick nod as he continues on his way. A loud yawn escapes from Hanako's mouth before she has a chance to cover it. I have little doubt she's fairly tired by now. I'd better be off to my room then. See you tomorrow, Hanako. Good night. We separate and begin to walk our separate ways before I stop and look back. Hanako stands there waving to me as she smiles. I smile and wave back to her, and after a few seconds she turns and walks up the stairs to her dormitory building, disappearing through the door. These little moments we share between us feel like a small treasure. One thing is for sure. I want to protect that small, delicate smile she so fleetingly wears around so few people. I wonder about these feelings I have when Hanako's around and when I'm able to do things for her. Whether they may be the seed for something beyond what we share now. He's finally reaching that mental conclusion. Taking him a while. The summertime sun is something to be savored, but when combined with the clean country air, it's all the better. The track and field club members are horsing around on the field ahead. Some are playing with a soccer ball, others are talking, and a few laugh as two of them mock fight with each other. None of them pay me any heed as I sit alone on the grass, underneath the shade of a particularly large tree. It's a nice and peaceful moment after a dreary day of schoolwork. I played soccer pretty often before my heart attack, so I thought it would be really nostalgic to watch them. What I'm feeling now, though, is quite distinct from that emotion. Oh, hello there. I hear footsteps approaching from behind me, and I turn to my side to see one of my classmates taking a seat beside me. I'm taken off guard as the two of us haven't talked much before. I didn't think anybody would notice me here. And on top of everything else, it's always a real trip whenever I see a new character with, like, actual art. Sup? Sup, Miki? You seem to be missing a hand. That probably sucks. Hi, Miura, was it? Just call me Miki. Surnames are too stuffy. Likewise, then. We both look back out to the field where the guys are playing. Looks like they're getting ready to have a second game, with people spreading out to their positions and the ball being carried to the center of the field. Sure enough, the whistle is blown to begin the match, and they get right back to it. Not gonna play? Nah, just gonna rest for a bit. What about you? You kinda look like you wanted to play when you were watching us before. So someone did notice me after all. It's kind of a long story. Her face says that I've piqued her interest. I'm in Yamako because I've got a heart condition. I can't really play soccer anymore. He's very open about it now. Wanted to be a soccer player, did you? No, I only really did it for fun. My friends played it, so I played it as well. Any of those guys playing around could have been me before my accident, but I don't feel like I have any real wish to go back to that either. It's a little hard to explain. I'm still decent physically built for the days from when I played, even if my strength's largely left me by now. And I got on well with the other club members. When I think about it, I should feel pretty bad watching people play when I can't anymore. Yet I don't. Maybe it's a good thing. A sign that I've gotten over it and that I'm ready to become a new person. Sorry, I'm kind of rambling. It's cool. I'm actually glad to hear that. Sounds like you really had your stuff together. Some of the people that come to Yamaku are pretty mussed up at first. So you're a member of the track and field team then? Yep, been in it since I first arrived. Don't suppose you're friends with Emmy? Short, fast runner, no legs. I don't think there are that many female track and field members. Emmy. Everyone knows about her, don't they? Interesting that I didn't interact with you during her route. But nah, I tend to get on better with guys, so me and Emmy don't talk much. Anyway, what about you? Ah, well, I'm not really in any clubs. Or real clubs, anyway. You've been hanging around with Hanako and that blonde Amazon, though, right? Ha! She is kind of tall. Blonde Amazon? I supposedly has the height to fit the description, if nothing else. I nod in response without making too fine a point of things. Don't worry about it. As long as you got some friends, you don't need to join a club. A long whistling from the field attracts our attention. One of the players is on the ground clutching his leg, and the other stops play to jog up to him, leaving Miki grimacing. Ah, that looks painful. That guy really has bad luck. As she continues to look out into the field, I can't help being reminded of her own injuries. Her left arm, ending in a stump rather than a hand, has been bandaged up for the entire time I've been in Yamako, and her injury doesn't seem that new. She turns to talk to me again and catches me looking. Both of us sit in awkward silence as she takes her bandaged arm and holds it in her lap with other remaining hand. Sorry, I guess I'm still a bit. It's fine, really. Her tone is light, but neither of us say anything afterwards. Every disabled student here have their own way of dealing with their problems, and some finding their conditions troublesome is only natural. I'm included among them, after all. The injured guy from the soccer game manages to get onto his feet with some help and ends up hobbling off the field with one arm over the shoulder of another for support. Probably just a pulled muscle if he can still manage to walk. The whistle blows again and the game continues, once more with one less man on the field. They are at an incredible disadvantage. Hanging out with Hanako and that blonde girl. You keep some pretty strange company. How so? It's just that Hanako's kinda, I don't know, shy? No, it's not really that. It's just, she's got some issues, I think. I can't really put it in a nice way. Not that I don't think she's a nice person, though. She's perfectly nice. Just hard to deal with. It sounds like Miki, or at least some other people in the class, have tried to get closer to Hanako in the past, and that it didn't go well. Makes sense. I think your judgment is rather harsh, given that everyone, not just those in Yamako, have their own issues. Then again, I haven't known Hanako for that long, so wouldn't surprise me if there was some stuff I didn't know about. Also, it's not like you're not kind of judgmental in your own internal thoughts. You seem to get better over time, but every time I'm going to be reversing time to go back to before you have character development, it's always going to be a little weird. I'll just take it as it comes. She's a nice person, and I think that's all that really matters. Miki's eyes narrow a little and her smile spreads. You really like her, don't you? Miki certainly doesn't mince words. Admit it, deny it. I certainly don't feel like denying it would make anybody any happier at any moment, so yeah, might as well. To be completely honest, yeah, I do. I'd appreciate it if you didn't tell anyone. Hey, whoa, you can trust me. No problems there. To be honest, I think it's kind of cute. If you want to go for it, don't let me stop you. Thanks. She may say that, but she was just talking about Hanako having issues. Still, I want to hold myself to the words I said. Hanako's problems don't matter. I'll deal with anything that comes up because I want to help her. If there's even the smallest possibility that I can pull Hanako out of her depression and seclusion, then I should work towards that, no matter what. If she needs a prince, then I'll be that prince. Yeah, but what if she doesn't need one of those? Isn't the entire reason why we've been able to get along up to this point is because you didn't really treat it like it was any big deal whatsoever? I get the feeling that that might be the lesson here. And seeing as how we haven't had any direct conflict yet in this story, I imagine something of that ilk would probably have to come into the fray. As I think about the possibility of a relationship, I can see Miki grinning at me while watching my face. I'm no doubt blushing, and looking away from her only makes her laugh. Miki gives off a different vibe from the other girls. She's got snake arms. No, talking to her feels more like talking to a guy than a woman. Her saying she prefers male company doesn't help to dispel that notion either. Makes her sound pretty badass. Kinda wish I could talk to her more, honestly. But it be what it be. Glancing at my watch shows that lunch break is ending in only a few minutes. Time to start heading back to class. Lunch is about to end. Wanna head back? Yeah, we'd better. I pick myself up off the grass and dust myself off, offering a hand to Miki to help her up as well. She takes it and easily pulls herself up, showing the muscles moving in her toned bare arms in the process. Strunk. Come to think of it, why aren't you wearing the normal girl's blouse? It's too hot and constricting. The boy's uniform is better anyway. I'm surprised that there's enough, leeway on that. She throws her arms around a bit to emphasize her point, which has the side effect of showing off one particular part of her body that would be especially constricted by the blouse. Indeed. I didn't say it, though. The two of us start the walk to the main building through the gardens, talking as we go. Sounds like you're settling in well. It's a relief. I was pretty surprised to get a transfer student at this point in the year, considering the exams are coming up. Don't remind me. Nah, don't worry about them. Just cram it in and you'll be fine. Doesn't sound like good advice. She claps my shoulder a couple of times and she grins. I don't think she takes school very seriously. As you shouldn't. That's my professional advice. Don't take school seriously, kids. You seem like a smart guy. The move's taken to you well already. You're like a hand in a glove. Now to make out whether that's a good thing or a bad thing. I still don't know what to make of this school. I've been here a few weeks already, but I still feel dazed at times. Get used to it. Just give it some time. It's only a high school, just like any other. She makes it sound so simple, but I've never thought about it that way. To me, Yamaku symbolized a marked shift in my life. I was no longer normal. I was different. And was to be educated with other different people. And yet I'm walking back to class and talking casually with a classmate during lunch, after watching some others play a soccer game. All perfectly normal. Maybe she has a point. Maybe I should just look at Hanako in the same way. Everyone has their own issues. This is hardly something unique to Yamaku. After all, it's only a high school just like any other. As we continue to talk, I find myself smiling. Miki and I are very different people in almost every way, but it feels good to have gotten to know another classmate a bit better. She does seem pretty dang cool. Much appreciation was had this day, lovely times. Ha-ta-ta-ti-tu-tu. Oh, a light breeze blows the scent of early summer around my head while I wait for Lily. Who knows where Lily be? Small white clouds litter the sky, breaking up the monotony of the blue. Sal, are you here? You know I is, girl. Come on now. Lily's voice lifts on the breeze as if there were one and the same thing. I stop gazing into the sky to examine Lily. Oh, look at that! That's a nice little outfit. Very nice. With a peach off-the-shoulder sweater and tan ankle-length skirt, in addition to tan sandals, she's quite a sight. Yeah, I'm over here, Lily, near the gate. Were you able to sneak away from Hanako? Yes, it's not uncommon for me to go out during the weekends, so I don't think she noticed anything suspicious. That, and she has someone she sees. Lily purses her lips as if she maybe shouldn't have continued. I find it a little hard to believe. Hanako's seeing someone? Really? No, it's just... she sees a therapist every so often on weekends. That's understandable, gotta say. Oh, well, that does make a lot of sense. Lily rubs her arm uncomfortably, and after one look and a troubled expression, I quickly move to change the topic away from Hanako. Huh. Yes? I was just wondering, you can get around the city on your own? Lily sighs at my consternation surrounded the topic of her blindness. I'm my own worst enemy sometimes. I can, yes. It's easier when I'm out with a friend or my sister, though. I wonder how Lily gets along with her sister. Being an only child, it's hard to imagine what having a sibling would be like, so it makes me a little envious of her. Right, well then, the bus arrives in a few minutes, so we should probably get a move on. Indeed, it's a long wait if we miss the one. Or this one, whatever. Point is, don't miss the bus. With that, we set off for the bus stop on the hill. It's only a small distance from the school gate, so it's very convenient. It's a nice view from here. Coming from the city, I never really got to see scenery like this, let alone on a daily basis. This area is nice for me as well. It's tranquil and away from the noises and smells of the city. Lily perks up a trademark gesture of hers, signifying that she's caught a sound, as she is known to do. It's kind of a thing. Oh, here comes the bus. I look down the road to see the bus trundling up the hill. Her hearing's quite a useful tool. The bus only takes a short while to reach the bus stop, forcing its way up the road, and with a minute, we are on our way to the city. We're in the city! Life is good! Walking around the city, I feel a distinct nostalgia. The smells, the traffic, the tall buildings everywhere. It's a lot like my native city, save for the raised walkways. Feels a little weird walking around a city as casually as I would in a park, but with cars rushing underneath me. As I'm busily pondering the engineering marvel that is the raised walkway, woo, I get a surprise. It takes a moment for me to realize that Lily has wrapped her arm around mine, extending her cane in front of her with her other hand. For a moment, I'm startled, but I managed to keep enough of a lid on it for Lily not to notice. While it's not the first time that Lily relied on me for guidance, she'd only held onto my sleeve cuff before. It's logical that it would be easier for her to navigate a crowd in complex areas such as the city while securely linked, but I'm far from being as used to this kind of contact as Lily is. Finally realizing the growing silence between us as Lily waits for me to get moving, I quickly kick my brain into gear. You know, I was quite surprised that Hanako likes to sing. Have you ever heard her do that before? I have indeed. We've been to karaoke sessions several times along with my sister. I can't say I take to the activity much, but the others two like it. Maybe Hanako doing karaoke is more fitting than I initially thought. Just her and those she knows all alone in a little room. It would give her a rare chance to let her guard down with nobody else there to judge her. Maybe it'd be nice to bring her into town for karaoke birthday parties. She likes doing it. I'm not sure she would deal very well with all the excitement. I move to protest, but her face shows that she's mulling the proposal over some more. It takes quite some time for her to come to a conclusion. Then again, the best thing we can do for Hanako at this point is to try to create some pleasant birthday memories. Continually treating her as if she's abnormal won't help. I think you're right. It's as if she has something to remember apart from loss, then maybe she'll come around. If you brought her something nice that she could see every day, then maybe she'd be able to take her mind off her past and remember that she has friends. And in any case, I think Hanako can handle something like this. In the time I've spent beside her, I've learned that she isn't quite as frightfully fragile as I first thought she was. So, shall we be off? I'm not really sure about the layout of this area. Very well, I might like to suggest having something to eat first. I haven't either, so that sounds like a good plan. Everybody everywhere likes the food. Make sure you choose a nice place to sow. She gives a teasing smile, one that makes me smile reflexively in response even if she can't see that. I'll make very sure I do. Don't worry about that. Once inside, I order 2 slices of pie and accompanying cups of tea and take them back to our table. I'd pegged this cafe as the type to appeal to Lily, small and quiet, but well-kept and somewhat upscale, going by the dainty smile she wears. I don't really know if I chose right. It's very, very rare to not see her smiling, after all. Nevertheless, I take a seat next to her at one of the corner tables and lay down our small meals. Lily gingerly brings her head over to the slice of pie placed in front of her, delicately taking in the aroma. That's some stank pie you got yourself there. Dang, son. Lemon pie, is it? Thank you, Asao. No problem. The tea's next to it. Just be careful not to knock it over. She nods appreciatively, but judging from the slightly weak smile she has, the warning wasn't really necessary. I suppose the sound must have tipped off its position. We both tuck into our food without further ado, both of us remaining largely silent as we do so. Lily isn't the type to appreciate discussion while eating, and I can't say I like it either. Eventually, we finish both our meals, and the last of our teacups follow in short order. Lily is the first to break the silence. That was very nice. I must say, you've chosen quite well, Hisao. It's the first time I've really had much of a look around the city, so all I could really do is choose somewhere that looked nice. Damn, sorry. I feel really bad for inadvertently bringing up the subject of sight around Lily. She doesn't appear to mind much. Quite the opposite, she almost looks amused by my awkward attempt at an apology. You are thoughtful, Hisao, but sometimes I fear that it gets the better of you. There's no need to change your speech on my account. Lily truly is pretty comfortable in dealing with her condition. I still hasten to change the subject, as I can't really say that I share her confidence in the matter. Have you lived here for very long? Seems like you have this place pretty much sorted out. She quickly waves her hand in front of her face to dismiss the notion. It's nothing like that. I've attended Yamaku since the start of high school, but I didn't walk around the city very much because Akira, my sister, picked me up and dropped me off. Oh, right. You mentioned not living in the dormitories until recently. It's quite a surprise. I just assumed she'd been living here since entering Yamaku at the least, which would give her a few years here. I've lived with my family for most of my life. Then I was just together with my sister, with my family having moved to Inverness long before, and Akira working long hours. I ended up having to move. That sounds familiar. Yeah! Inverness. Isn't that somewhere in Scotland? Oh, did I not tell you? My father currently lives in Scotland, the birthplace of my mother. My father's side is mainly Japanese, though. You're half Japanese and half Scottish? Wow. That's not a combo you see too often. Neat. Huh. The question of what gave Lily her looks did not cross my mind, or did cross my mind every now and again, but never thought I'd ask. That answers that, then. To be honest, I'd never guessed, considering you have no accent. I'm guessing you were born here? Full marks. I'm thankful for my heritage, though, as without it, I'd likely not have been taught English so early in my life. Ew, bilingual. And what of you, Hisao? What about me? She gives a moment's thought. She probably should have thought of what to ask me before switching the topics. I'll go with, what are your plans for the future? To be honest, I haven't thought that much about that recently. After my accident and subsequent months in hospital, enjoying my life here with you and Hanako has been enough for me. In fact, I don't think I've thought all about a future for some time now. Seems almost futile. This is your last year of school. After this, you have to fend for yourself one way or the other. It's not like I don't know that, I just haven't put much thought into it since then. She opens her mouth to continue, but gives a small sigh instead. She seems to have realized that she really doesn't know enough about my situation to go too deeply into this. Well, we all have our own pace. I just hope you'll take any chance you see. I understand. I'll think about it. Which is code for that I will not do that. As we walk back onto the city, Lily takes hold of my arm once again. So, did you get any good ideas for a present? To be honest, no. I've never been very good at picking them. As absurd as it sounds, perhaps we should just look around? Hearing Lily utter those words throws me for a moment. Right. How do we do that? That's just the reaction I was expecting. It's simple. You can go window shopping and just tell me what's around. If something interesting comes up, then we might get an idea. Right. I'm still not sure of this, but I'll take your word for it. I think we'll manage. Hanako, my sister, and I managed to do it well enough. With Lily's simplistic and rather optimistic statement, we set off into the shopping district of the city, and I start describing everything I see to Lily. It's hard to think of Hanako going window shopping. She doesn't feel like the type to place much stock in fashion, nor have I noticed her reading magazines or the like. In fact, all I think I've really ever seen her do as a hobby is read books. There's a houseware shop just ahead. Looks like it's mostly crockery, though. I can't think that she'd have much need for that. What type of message would that send to her? Cook more food? It's not such a bad idea, maybe. Sometimes it's best to leave these things alone, Hisao. Once again, I get the feeling that Hanako's exploits in the kitchen aren't always successful. Lee must have had to help her with that sometimes. Let's see. Next along is a bookshop. It seems like a good one. She's always reading. Yes, but there are a few problems with books. I'm not quite sure what she has and hasn't read. What about a gift card, then? There's nothing as impersonal as giving someone a gift card. It's like saying I don't know enough about you to work out what you'd like. I always thought of it as making sure they'd get what they wanted. Giving people gifts is supposed to show them the level of affection you have for them. If you can't decide on a simple gift for them, then how could you think of for them? Right. No gift cards. Lily seems overly passionate about this, but I can see her point. If you're going to get something for someone, then you should at least put some thought into it. If I want to get something for Hanako that reminds her of us every day, then what good is a gift card? In that case, what did you get Hanako last year? A porcelain doll. I thought if she had someone to talk to, it might help her ease her pain. A doll isn't going to criticize her, after all. So, should I be looking for a doll shop? If you could be so kind to keep a lookout for one, I would be grateful. Sounds good to me, though I wish you'd mentioned it earlier. But if I did that, then you wouldn't have started thinking for yourself, would you? Once again, Lily has a point. My brain is currently analyzing every store we pass for gift options. If Lily had mentioned a doll shop to begin with, I wouldn't have thought of anything else. We wander through the city streets, but seem unable to find anything that resembles a doll shop, or anything that I could consider a fitting present. The simple act of searching is starting to clear my head. The events of last week are starting to fade away, and I'm looking forward to giving Hanako her gift. If I can find one, that is. This is hopeless. Thought we'd be able to find something in the city for sure. And I'm sure we've walked down the street at least once before. That almost sounds like you're giving up, Hisao. I'm not, but it's a lot harder than I thought. Try not to be so restricted in your thinking. Maybe you should actually go into some shops and have a look around. That might work. Never really been any good at window shopping. Lily and I circle around the city streets once more, this time popping into stores that catch our attention. In the end, though, nothing comes up as easily, especially appropriate. Hanako's tastes are often quite hard to pin down at the best of times, thanks to her intensely private nature. And those tastes we do know are hard to accommodate. Maybe we take a break for a minute. I'm a bit exhausted. And then she makes us sit. I agree and leave Lily to rest against a railing while I go to get a couple of drinks from a nearby vending machine. After walking up to the vending machine and grabbing myself some lemonade, that's a lot of lemon-based products in general in this game, but mostly today, I find myself at a bit of a loss. Not really knowing Lily's taste, I decided to take a guess and grab something that seems a little girly, but not too weird. Strawberry-flavored milk. Back. I walk up to her and place the carton into her outstretched hands, making sure she has a grip on it before letting go. She feels out its contours before opening it and taking a very tentative sip. Her approving smile afterwards tells me I made the right choice. We both rest and have a quiet drink for a few minutes. Uh-oh, SpaghettiOs. A familiar soft ringing begins to sound from Lily's side. She quickly apologizes as her hand goes into her pocket, pulling out her mobile phone. Do you mind if I take this? That's fine, don't worry. She nods to me and thanks before turning away and flipping her phone open, bringing it to her side as her face as she picks up the call. Going by the tone of Lily's voice, the person on the other end is no doubt some friend or another. I tune out their conversation pretty quickly, as the snippets that Lily says makes it sound sounds like little more than gossip. Without much else to do, I find myself watching Lily. She really is a pretty girl, which would hardly hurt her popularity in school. It's interesting just how much Hanako and Lily contrast with each other in both personality and appearance. For a few minutes, I just lean back and drink, watching her. Before long, Lily says her goodbyes to the person she's talking to and hangs up, placing her phone back in her pocket and leaning back against the railing as before. Sorry, just a friend from class. I take one final swig from my can before throwing it into the bin. Lily gives me her carton to throw away soon after finishing it off relatively quickly. Strawberry milk for the ground. You seem to have a lot of friends. Oh? Lily waits for me to continue, her interest piqued. I was thinking that you and Hanako contrast really heavily. It's hard to imagine Hanako doing a lot of the things you do, or knowing the people you know. You seem to think about Hanako quite a bit. That's none of your business! I don't know, it's just, she's mysterious, I guess. I kind of want to know more about her, which isn't that easy. It almost sounds like you're doubting your relationship to her. I don't think it's that, I just want to do more for her, being her friend and all. I don't even know how she sees me. The statement seems to interest Lily quite a bit. What if Hanako said anything about me to Lily during their conversations? I feel like it's almost undeniably come up, considering Lily as a person. I'm about to ask what's on her mind as she picks herself up from the railing. Shall we be off then? Keeping things to herself? Various mysteries? Her voice and expression show that she's playing games with me. Lily knows damn well that she's leaving me hanging. With a sigh, I pick myself up off the railing as well and have a brief look around. We have stuff to do, so I'll just try and get back to her about this later. Tucked in between a newsstand and a convenience store is a small shop. The sign above the door reads, Othello's Antiques, in decorative English script. It'd be easy to miss if we were walking along the street, but since we're stationary and I'm purposely looking around, it's just noticeable. Say, Lily, that doll you got Hanako, was it new? Well, yes, but I'm not quite sure I know what you mean. I think I found our shop. It's across the road. Oh? What is it, some kind of toy shop? It's an antique shop. I think it's probably going to be our best bet. Really? I didn't even know we had one of those near here. Neither did I. I missed it the first time we went by here. It's pretty well hidden. Well then, can't hurt to check. Inspired by this new find, we quickly dust ourselves off and head towards the store. Lily's hand finding its way to my elbow for guidance. Ting ting! The store has a strange, musky scent to it, as if everything in here is exceptionally old, almost like it's an antique shop or something. But what are the odds of that? The layout is more like a garage than a store. Things are strewn around the floor without any immediate semblance of order. Egads! Some kind of old man! The shopkeeper gives us an almost bored look through his particularly small eyes. His face looks weary and tired, and his dress style is distinctively anachronistic. He gives us a polite nod of welcome before going back to his book. Lily holds tightly onto my arm, and I find myself having to split my efforts between making sure we don't miss a potential gift for Hanako and making sure Lily doesn't inadvertently bump into anything. What is Zoltar? This task is quite difficult given the haphazard way the store is laid out, and the many things poking out of the shelves thereon, or sitting on pieces of furniture, but eventually we safely arrive at an old desk covered in dolls and teddy bears. I think this is the right place. There's pretty much every kind of doll you could imagine here. That should make the choice much simpler. Could you please pick one for me, Sao? I had a feeling that it would come to this. I picture Hanako in my mind and try to imagine what kind of the dolls before me would suit her the best. My eyes wander across the collection. Each one is as exquisite as the one before it. The sheer number of styles is boggling, but eventually one catches my eye. Here, what about this one? I pick up a small porcelain doll that looks to be at least somewhat affordable, dressed in a Victorian-era green dress with a little brown hat sitting atop its blonde hair. It looks a little like Lily. I gently pass it to her, who delicately feels her way around the object while wearing a look of slight concentration. It certainly feels beautiful. Do you think it would suit Hanako, in your opinion? I think it would. It could look good in her room. In that case, I'll trust your judgment. Will you be getting her something as well, or shall this be a shared gift? I'm not sure. I think I should get her something myself, but I don't think getting her another doll is such a great idea. Maybe... I let my voice trail off as I look around the shop, resting on on a writing table not far from us is a decorative box that catches my eye. Oh, wait here, I think I found something. My, that was fast. I gingerly walk through a collection of crystal glassware and pick up the box. The wooden sides are covered in carvings depicting ancient battles around a castle. The top, however, looks far too familiar. Alternating squares off white and black varnished wood are arranged on the lid. It's a really nice item. It's a chess set from overseas. Ooh, chess! That sounds like a good idea. The store's owner's sudden appearance startles me a little. I didn't see him approaching at all. I suppose he's trying to help us because we don't really look like we know what we're looking for. Or, on the other hand, maybe he just wants to keep an eye on us because he suspects we might shoplift instead. Who knows? I'm looking for a present for a friend. I see. In that case, the chess set would make a fine choice. Realization floods into my mind. This is a pretty good looking set. But this is an antique shop. They're not well known for their bargain prices. How old is this? This is a reproduction. My best estimate is that it's about 5 years old. I see. How much? He thinks a little before telling me, which is slightly disconcerting. I'll let you take this now for 7,000 yen. I balk a little. I wasn't expecting to spend that much, but this does seem perfect. And again, maybe that's a testament to how well he worked out how much he could make me pay. Couldn't make it 5,000? 5,500, no lower. I'm sold. Oh, we'd also like to get that doll. The store owner looks over my shoulder, focused on Lily and the doll in her hands. His eyes narrow and he visibly takes a moment to switch mental gears. In the process, his smile drops slightly. I guess that means that not everything in the store is reproduction. Are you quite sure that you want that doll, miss? I trust my friend's judgment. I see. Oh, no offense. None taken. If you could please wrap it for me, it would be appreciated. Yes, of course, but it is 20,000 yen. Lily reaches into her purse and presents 4 crisp-looking 5,000 yen notes. Oh, here you are, 20,000 yen. The shopkeeper dutifully takes them and the doll and proceeds to the counter. I take Lily's arm to guide her there. Are you sure about this? It's okay. I have the funds I need. As I said, I trust your judgment. I feel a little guilty on two fronts. Firstly, because Lily just spent a lot of money on my recommendation, and secondly, because I have a feeling the value of my gift isn't high enough. Hey, it doesn't have to be expensive, it just has to mean something. Nevertheless, Lily does seem to get somewhat awkward whenever the mention of money comes about. I hand the shopkeep my present and the money for it in turn. He puts the cash into the register before busying himself with wrapping the doll and repeating the process on the chessboard. Eventually, he finishes the gift wrapping and hands us both our presents. Please be careful on your way back, and do come again. Thank you. Indeed, thank you very much. The store owner bows deeply to us as we leave. Well, it did take us all day, but we found something in the end. That we did. Now that the presents are wrapped, I'm feeling a little impatient to give them to Hanako. It's a common reaction to buying gifts, wanting to see the reaction of the receiver as they discover what it is. Big time. I feel that way whenever I start a new Let's Play. You never know how people are going to respond. In fact, as of recording this, I have no idea whatsoever how people have responded to part 1 of this series, and I'm more than slightly nervous about it. Oh boy, here's hoping it went mildly well. And part of me wants to return to Hanako just to confirm her condition with my own eyes. So, should we head back? Let's. We've done a lot of walking today, so I shan't mind taking a rest back at the dormitories. Lily's right. Now that the time to find a shop is over, my legs are feeling quite tired. Well, then back to school for us. Looking forward to resting for a bit, too. Lily holds out her arm and I link mine with hers. Together we make our way back to the bus stop. It's a delightful time for all. Even though we have transcended space-time yet again, as one does.